All right, guys, I'm going to introduce you to Higher Calling Adventures. There exists a threat, from anti-hunting groups to politicians trying to give our land away, and we won't stand for it. Those vast western landscapes provide the space for our wildlife to thrive, and a place for hunters and anglers to fuel the fire that sparks their soul. In this show, we share our love of hunting, fishing, and conservation. Here, we provide the foundation to meet these threats through passion and the grit of the American outdoorsman. Welcome to the Western Huntsman Podcast. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Jim Huntsman, the host of the Western Huntsman Podcast, coming at you from the Broken Tine studio right here in, I almost said Hayden, fellas. I moved to Clark Fork. I almost misspoke there. So coming at you from Clark Fork, Idaho, I've got three super cool dudes on the line right now, and what we did is we figured out how to do like this three-way call, so we're all on our own phones. Are you guys together, or are you guys separate, or what are you guys doing?
Oh, that's funny. I'll answer that. So we decided, having done like group interviews in the past, that it's best if we're all together and we can kind of, give ourselves a nod on who's going to answer that question or how. So you're not talking over each other. And
yeah.
So Greg and Cheyanne said, "Hey, let's go to Kevin's house." I'm kind of in the middle between everyone, and I'm in the emergency service business, and I was on call, and I didn't really think it'd be big of a deal because I can usually work around things well. I got a call from a really big referral partner, so I'm actually not at my house right now, and they are. And so this is kind of funny. So the plan was to be all together, and that's just the way it is, 2 and 1 all the time.
So are you like driving back home or something? Or are you...
I am driving back home, yeah.
Oh, that's funny. So Higher Calling Adventures is somebody that I've kind of been following on social media. We met a few years back at an elk seminar, and many of you may remember Kevin Bunce from the episode that we dubbed Dreams of September from about a month ago or so. He was one of our guests on that got a really nice elk this last September. So, and then also on the line and as part of Higher Calling Adventures, we have Cheyanne McElderry. Did I pronounce that right, Cheyanne?
It's actually McElderry. It's a D. So.
Oh, I said Barry. I'm sorry, man. Man, I owe you a T-shirt.
That's all right. It happens all the time.
McElderry.
Yep.
And then we also have Greg Wiggins. Did I pronounce that one right, Greg?
You got it, Jim.
Sweet. All right, we're all in good shape. I want to kind of find out, Kevin. I know you live in the Post Falls, Idaho area. Cheyanne, where are you at?
I'm just south of Post Falls in Plummer, Idaho.
Oh, down
about
in Plummer.
Half hour south.
Oh, cool. Yep. I was just through there yesterday. And
yeah.
Greg, how about you, man?
Yeah. Hey, I'm up. I'm the outcast, so I'm up in Kettle Falls, Washington area.
Oh, nice.
I work for a Vista. I manage a plant for a Vista up that way.
Oh, cool. Well, that's not a horrible place to be.
It's not too bad. We're in a pretty good spot up there.
Yeah. There's some big old muley bucks up there. I don't know. It was weird. They had a weird Washington when I hunted over there. Had some weird restrictions on hunting mule deer over there, but I saw a bunch of huge ones. Are there still a bunch of big muleys up there?
Yeah, we got some nice mule deer hunting, and whitetail, and a little bit of the elk seasons are a little different over there, but it's all right. It's all right. I'm pretty blessed. I get to hunt in Washington, and I come over and hunt with partners over here in Idaho, and hunt another state down south, and it's pretty cool.
So you guys are pretty spread out, actually. Man, Kettle Falls to Plummer, that's like a 2.5 hour drive, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a long ways. For Greg, anyway.
Yeah. I like your philosophy, Kevin. You be the mediating point there, and everybody just meet there.
Yeah, we call my house Midway.
Yeah, midway. I like it. So who wants to tell us? I want somebody to explain what Higher Calling Adventures is, and kind of give us the gist of what's behind it and what the driver is there, and we'll kind of take it from there.
Yeah, Cheyanne, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take this one. Greg and I have been hunting together since '99, so we've been 20 plus years hunting together, and we've had a lot of experiences, learned a lot of things, and I think together we've probably taken almost 30 elk in the last 20 years. So, but we've always done that. We've had a lot of great experiences out in God's woods, and it's been awesome. And we thought, well, maybe we should try to share that experience that we have with other people. And so a few years ago, about 4 seasons now, I met to talk with Kevin and Greg and said, hey, why don't we, combine forces and do some filming and see what happens with it. And we really just want to be sort of a light for God into this world as far as our goals to show God's creation. And you can go out there and you can have a great time and yeah, it's been a great experience for us over the last few years, and our heart is just to share our experiences with one another and our families and other people. We're not really professional hunters, but we just try to do our best out there and let other people know what we're doing too. So.
Man, I mean, 30 elk over the last 22 years is like I want to join and be a part of Higher Calling Adventures. I feel like it up my odds a little bit.
Yeah, so Kevin's numbers in there. I mean, we're sneaking on the 40 elk between 3 of us.
Wow,
over that timeline.
Yeah, that's amazing. And is that mainly you guys hunting in Idaho or going over to Washington? You guys travel out of state at all, other than those 2 places, or?
I get to hunt Washington, just being the home state, so I hunt that. Not often though, because I just spend my time in Idaho. I used to live in Idaho. That's how Cheyanne and I met, and then so I do bounce over there when I can. And it wasn't until actually last year I finally got my first elk over there, my first bull, and I actually got it off my property that I have, and was able to have a short pack out with the tractor. It was epic.
Oh, that was on that video. I watched that video. Is that where that? Dude, we have the same tractor. I love it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. I was pretty excited when I saw that. So that's the way to do it, man. The old John Deere will take care of it in a hurry. It's a lot better than putting it on your back.
Absolutely. When I was doing that, I was like, this is so cool. I got a deer packing an elk. It is so cool.
Yeah, for sure. I love it. And can you guys talk about obviously the name and what you were talking about was, in the spirituality side of it. What does God have to do with your platform, Higher Calling Adventures? Kind of tell us how that's connected and what the driver is with that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for us, I mean, man, everything we do in life has to do with God and family. I mean, He's my reason for existence. I'm a pastor and plumber. That's my profession. So I just actually did I do a series every October, Lessons from the Elk Woods, just different things God has showed us through our hunting season in September, and we just share. Higher Calling came about that there's a verse that live a life worthy of the calling from Philippians 4. And we just want to live a life that honors God and our families, and give an opportunity to share the importance of Christ in our lives with other people. And so, we pray before we do our hunts in the morning. We do devotions together in the morning. And so Christ really is a focus of all we do just in life. And so it really isn't about hunting for us as much as Christ, and then we do hunting also. Sure. And so Christ is the center, and so we just bring that about in all that we try to do. We try to reflect a lifestyle that would honor God in all that we do. Like this last season, we had an interesting experience where we met some younger guys. We were in a place we were bivvied out, and it's down a long ways from the top. And we were doing some calling as we were hiking in, and we called 2 younger guys down from the top, and it's a long ways. And they made it a long ways. We chased our bugle, met with them, and we're like, oh man, you guys are pretty awesome to chase a bugle all the way down here. I mean, we're camping down here, so.
Yeah.
And so it was a great. We thought we shared a great experience. And after a couple of days, Kevin had to go out early because he had some dental surgery that needed to be done. And he got back up to the truck, and they had let the air out of our tires because they were mad that we were in their hunting spot.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So Kevin got up there, and they pulled the valve seat for the valve stem out on each one of our tires. At least they left us 3 good tires, and I had to change my tire. Kevin had to pull a valve stem out of his motorcycle and put it in and air it up. And so they were quite bitter that we were down in their hunting spot. And we were just talking about it afterwards, and we just wanted to, instead of returning evil for evil, we decided, well, we should just return good instead of evil. And so we actually tried to. They were at one time camped up top. We got them a gift card and some Gatorade, and we're gonna leave it for them, and they had actually moved their camp before we got to them. But so in that, some people would be ticked off. We actually know some people who were camped on top. They were pretty mad at the guys that did that to us, and we were like, they have something in their heart that needs to be fixed to have that kind of bitterness. And so for us, we just try to be kind instead. And so that's what Christ does for us, and that's why we just try to live differently. We try to hunt differently. We try to do everything differently, as long as it's for the glory of God. And that's what really a higher calling is all about. It's for the glory of God. So.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. I wish more people had that kind of attitude in terms of, I'm always interested when we're talking about God and bringing God into our daily lives and things that, whether you're somebody that follows that lifestyle or not, there's something to be said for the way that you reacted to that and your beliefs, and I think we'd get along pretty well on those terms. But I guess what I'm trying to say, I get long-winded sometimes because I have like 4 different directions I want to take this. But if more hunters had that attitude, because, and I talked about this on an episode the other day, where, we have this thing, people ask me all the time, and I ask a lot of different people, what is the biggest threat to hunters? And the most common answer that I get is not anti-hunters, it's not this, it's not that, it's hunters themselves. And I get that. I don't necessarily agree with that answer, but I also get the sentiment, because it's things like that where these hunters, they go out and they feel like you have done them wrong by being in a public land area that they feel like is theirs, and the response is to do damage to your vehicles, and that bothers me. I mean that really bothers me.
Well, it did bother us too, and not to say that we were just like, hey, that was awesome. We
appreciate that.
we were quite bothered, and it actually took us, sitting down together and talking about the situation and keeping each other accountable. It's like, hey, we can't get bitter in this, and I know, our flesh, the part of us, wanted to just go and cut a hole in their tent and flip it down the hill, but we know that wasn't the right attitude, right? That wasn't the right place to go. And it took us actually just talking with each other. It's like, well, you know what? We need to take a step back and not let our frustrations take the better of us, and do something different instead. So
you guys,
our natural reaction wasn't that. So
I totally get that. And so you gave him like Gatorade bottles and stuff, huh?
Yeah, our intent, we could never. Well, we ended up running into the guy where he works, and so. So we're not going to say where that's at or anything.
Wait a minute.
Next time,
does he own a tire store?
Hey, let's just go on to the next. He may or may not be working at a tire place. We'll leave it at that. So we did find who it was later, and then the next time we went in, we were actually going to just talk to him about it, and then. He didn't come out when we were filling up and getting the propane and stuff like that. So,
gotcha.
But do what you can do and love people and love God. I think that's what we try to do. So
yeah. Well, and that's a great message. It's an important message and a message I feel like, we can have an entire podcast discussion talking about the lack of that within today's society and how that's working out for us. And so, I appreciate that. But so I want to get to a few things. We covered that. I want to talk about you guys' this last season, and I want to talk about your full draw film tour stuff coming up. Why don't you walk us through? So we got a really good story of Kevin's season. Where does that leave Greg, and where does that leave Cheyanne in terms of? I know we're still in the middle of season in terms of deer and everything else, but elk season, specifically September. You guys mentioned before we started recording that you're not much for rifle hunting, so that leads me to believe that you guys have a thing for September.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is the best time to be in the woods. I mean, there's no better time that close encounter and the bugle fest that takes place. It's the best. And this year turned out just we had so much fun as a team out there, just enjoying each other and spending time out there, and a lot of great encounters with some nice bulls and herd bulls and close ones, and passed some little ones along the way, and Cheyanne was able to punch his tag on the second to the last day, and it was pretty cool. In the midst of that, we recorded our biggest bull we've ever seen in the middle of that, and we focused on that in the middle of the season and tried to hunt that one bull and chase that one bugle, and he won, right? But we focused in on that and just hunted hard for that one bull. After we saw him, it was like, wow, that's an amazing bull. That's the one we want. And we've never really done that, where you hunt day after day after day on that one bull. And we kept having encounters, and we got on film with him again and just couldn't close the deal. We stepped on I had an encounter with him, and I ended up stepping on one of those cow mines where you're getting close, and then you look up and there's a cow, and it's like boom, and it just blows up.
It busted. Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, Cheyanne, we got it done. We got done with hunting this big bull. We called him Roy. He was just a toad, and we got to a point with just hunting Roy. We were just done, and said, we need a buggy day. We're not going to kill a bull unless we can get it from the road type attitude. And we were just bombing around in the buggy, just lighting bugles off, just hitting those drainages and lighting something off, and we got something to pop, and Cheyanne got her done.
So you guys were basically kind of stopping along the road and letting out a bugle and seeing what's out there?
Absolutely.
You guys at one point, I don't know who it was, but somebody posted something that you have this road that you're on, and there's always this point in the road where you guys stop and bugle, and one time it actually panned out, and you called in a bull and got him. Who was that?
Yeah, that
probably
was
talking about Kevin's flat tire.
Yeah, flat tire bull. That was so we have this one spot that we hunt, and it's pretty rough road, and it's about 10 or 11 miles or something like that up to where we like to hunt. And Cheyanne and I decided we were going to take my side-by-side up, and our legs were pretty tired, and so we were just going to go up and do a little bit of hunting and bugling down in some drainages and see. And if we got something, actually Cheyanne said, unless they're like 300 yards off the road, I'm not getting out, right? And we were beat. We had been backpacked in, and we were just done. Our legs just needed recovery. And so as fate would have it, or divine intervention would have it, we got about 7 miles up there, and I hit a pretty big rock in the middle of the road, got a really serious flat tire, like a big, huge hole in my tire. And so I'm like, it's okay. I got plugs, and I got this like compressed air. Let's fill it up and let's keep hunting. We filled up the holes and all that. Anyways, long story short, we had to hike back to town and get different stuff to fix that tire. 7 miles back to town. We ended up picking up a rig and then drove back up there, fixed the tire, and we continued to hunt. But before we left there, Cheyanne went over and said, "Hey, I'm going to bugle off down in this drainage. Might as well. We ain't doing nothing else but walking out of here." And he bugles down in this drainage, and this bull answers back. And I wanted to go chase him, but we were kind of in a debate of whether it was on public or private, and whether we could get down and around this private that was down in this little basin where this bull was. And so we started stopping at this corner every single time we go up there. The dark didn't matter, afternoon. And we got an answer quite a bit. And Greg and I have hunted down there a couple times, chased after bulls down there, literally because we stopped and bugled when we had a flat tire. So fast forward a couple years, Cheyanne and I were hunting on top, and we were on our way out. We were actually coming back into town to meet up with Greg. Greg was in town for a couple of days working, and like, hey, we got to stop at Flat Tire Corner. That's what we called it because that's what happened there. So we got to stop at Flat Tire Corner and bugle. We can't just drive by it. And so and we have a lot of spots like that. So a lot of spots where we always stop and bugle because bulls usually answer, and then that means the hunt's on then, So
yeah, we
stopped and we bugled, and I don't have the greatest ears. I'll tell you, I'm really, really deaf. And so I'm pointing this way, and Cheyenne's like, no, it's back here. And I'm like, no, it's down here. And the bull ended up being behind us about 400 or 500 yards up on the ridge behind us. And of course, the thermals, it was afternoon, thermals were rolling straight up at him. And so we put a game plan together. We looped around. Hour and a half later, that bull was on the ground.
Wow.
That's pretty awesome.
That's interesting. I thought I was one of the only people that did that. I have my spots. I have I don't know, probably 8 or 9 spots where I do not pass it in September without stopping and bugling. And it's never materialized for me though. I'll get responses and just something, I blow the setup, whatever. But I'm super curious with the three of you. Kevin, I remember you kind of described this and kind of how you guys approach different scenarios in the woods with 3 people. And you're talking to a guy who is like 90% of the time I'm solo, right? And if I'm not solo, I'm with one other person. I don't know that I've ever in September gone out with more than just one other person to try to call in an elk. So I'm curious how you guys determine, and this would help a lot of hunters that listen that maybe hunt in groups of 3, but how do you guys organize it? Like, I'm shooter today. This guy's going to do the calling. Cheyanne, there's a rumor that you are a top-notch caller. That I remember from our discussion with Kevin. And so walk me through that. How do you guys work that out?
I'm passionate about calling. I don't know about a top-notch caller, but I choose, if I can, I'll say I'm all-time caller. And so I actually sometimes would rather shoot an elk, or I call in an elk than shoot an elk. A couple of years ago, I called in 5 different bulls that were shot. And so that was a goal for me. Is like, man, I want to call in all these bulls this year that get shot. And so that was one of my goals. And it was like, I just love to call. And that the hard part is everybody else in the group loves to call too. So we're usually fighting over who gets to be caller.
See, that's why I'm a solo hunter, man. I like to be the caller. And
yeah. It was such a neat opening day for us because Cheyanne and I, we've been able to take some herd bulls, and we're trying to get Kevin in the club, right? That was a big thing. We want to get Kevin in the club. So, we hadn't talked about who was shooter on opening day, but Kevin was off getting his gear, and it's like he comes walking over and go, "Hey, Cheyanne and I, we did rock, paper, scissors. You weren't here, so I threw Ghost Runner in for you, and Cheyanne and I lost, so you're hunter today." And he's like, "What? Wait, what again?" We just want to get him that opportunity, and it was so cool to be cameraman, and that's the dynamic of the 3-piece. I mean, cameraman is so cool. I just got to be right over Kevin's shoulder this whole time, following the whole thing, filming everything. And when you're cameraman, the stress is keep it in the viewfinder, but other than that, you're not shooting, you're not calling, you're just there. You're part of it. Front row seat, right?
Yeah. So
it was so cool, and it just came together, and it was awesome. And then after that, the rotation begins, right? If the day is, a bust and we don't get anything, then cameraman comes shooter, and shooter comes caller, and caller comes cameraman, and we just keep that rotation going around. So we each get a day, to do whatever and just keep rotating it around.
When you guys are out there hunting like that in that scenario, regardless who's, caller versus shooter versus cameraman, I've found that there's certain people that you can hunt with that it's not that it's not fun or it can't work, but there's another person that you might hunt with that you just for some reason have this intuitive connection that like nothing needs to be said when a bull bugles. You just know that each person knows exactly what to do. Is that how's the dynamic in your group? Is it you guys just kind of have a sense of what each other strengths and weaknesses and knows what each person's responsibility is, and there's not a lot of communication going on, or is it? Walk me through that.
When Greg and I, since we were hunting for 20 some years together, it's pretty natural for him and I. And when we brought Kevin on, it sort of added another dynamic. And so Kevin was in this learning curve of not that he couldn't call in elk or hasn't called in and killed bulls, and it was just like learning each other's style. We do this thing when we don't want to go chase after a bull down at the bottom of this canyon. We call it suck a bull, and I get my cow call out. I have a certain cow call. I just wail on it and try to get him to response. And there's a certain tones and stuff that I use. Well, we've had times where I do that, and Greg knows that, but Kevin didn't know that. When Kevin became caller, that one day Greg and I were like, "What is he doing?" But it was just a learning curve because Kevin and Greg and I have always hunted together.
Yeah.
And so I think Kevin had a little bit more learning curve, and now we do a lot of talking and discussing. And one of the things we learned is that the shooter drives the hunt, so he decides where to go, what to do, when to call. But the caller is always the caller, so that we don't have the hunter, bugling, get a ball response, get all excited, and then change callers, change tones, change style.
Yeah, that's bad.
And so the person that's the caller is the caller all day long with cow calls, with bugles, everything. But the shooter always drives the hunt. Hey, I want you to bugle. Hey, I want you to do this. I want you to do that. And then the camera guy just sits there and films it all. So, there was a learning curve, I think, when we first started, and now we're getting to know each other's style. And when to, like the bull I shot this year, I was caller, Greg was shooter, and I've shot several bulls, being caller. I think Greg gets tired of me shooting the bulls that I'm calling in for him, we got this bull responding, and I was actually right along the road on this brush thicket calling and bugling, and he was probably about 80 yards over on a finger, and Greg was sneaking around, and we're just bugling back and forth and challenging him, and I'd stomp him, and I'd pretend like I had a cow that I had circled off of him, and so I had a cow that was calling to the bull, but I would stomp the bull and say, no, this is my cow. And so there's this whole mental thing that I'm playing in my mind as this bull is bugling and raking and cows are mewing, and I'm just challenging him. I got your cow. What are you going to do about it? Mm-hmm. And then Greg stepped on a cow mine again. And but I didn't know that at this point in time, Greg is down in the brush, probably about 60 yards. And all of a sudden I hear the elk move away over the finger. And so I just as fast as I could down over the finger and got up on top and bugled. And he was down a couple hundred yards. And I had no clue where Greg was. Thought I heard some cow calling down where he was at, and it was sort of like a busted up thing. I thought the elk was going to go out, and so I decided there's a motorcycle trail, and I just ran down as hard as I could, 100 yards one direction, and followed another trail another 50 yards as hard as I could. And looked down, and there was a cow standing there at 40 yards, and then she moved off. Another cow standing, and she moved off, and then I could start seeing that bull start coming across, and so I reached down, flipped onto my bow, and I could see at the corner of my eyes these big old antlers, and I knew it was the herd bull. And I cow called before I looked up. I cow called, and he was standing porting away at 40 yards, and I drilled him right behind the shoulder.
Ah, sweet.
And so it was a great experience, but it's just it was just one of those things that we know that in those moments, right? If something happens this way, it's busted up. We just do what's natural, and we understand. Sometimes Kevin busts out and does something, and it was just whatever needs to be done, and we just go with the flow. So.
Do you guys ever get like any kind of friction between the three of you where it's like, man, he wants to do this, but I think we should do that? And if so, how do you work that out when you're hunting in a group of three?
That's a great question. And a lot of times the way we work that out is just understanding that each caller and each hunter has a little bit different. While we are very similar, everyone's a little bit less aggressive or more aggressive than the other guy. And just understanding that the hunter drives the hunt and his style is his style, and the caller just falls along with that, and his style is his style. And once you understand that and respect that, the conflicts generally aren't there. And what happens is after the hunt, whether it's success or failure, or we got to regroup and move forward, then we usually talk about, just like any team would talk about what happened well and what didn't happen well and how we want to do something different. And that's kind of how we go about it. And maybe Greg or Cheyanne might want to chime in too.
Yeah, you got anything to add to that?
Well, I don't think we started off that way very well. I think our first year there was some tension, definitely. Trying to learn styles and what is he doing? Why is he doing that? And then going back on some of the stuff we recorded is like, man, I was a jerk. I shouldn't have said that. And looking back on some of those things that happen when you first start, and then we learn and say, okay, this is what's really needs to happen. I think we did a year where we did sort of a slingshot hunting where the hunter would call, get the bull going, and then the caller would take over after that. And we realized that that's just not working.
Sure. And
so the caller has to be caller. And so but there is a growing process. We didn't start off, gelling perfectly at first, but that's growing. And now the more we hunt together, the less we have to think about it. We just do. So.
Yeah, it's always a question. Greg, I'm sorry, did I cut you off there, buddy?
Yeah, it's okay. I'll jump in here in a minute.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. For me, it was interesting because Cheyanne and I, 20 years of hunting together, and it was just we just grew up doing it, right? And we had our failures and successes all along the way. But the days that I would run back to work for something, a lot of times it got to where he was kind of syncing up with Kevin a little bit. So they had kind of started hunting on off days, and I'd get back and Cheyanne and I'd be synced back up doing stuff. So when we came together as a team, it was kind of like I'd never hunted with Kevin, and it clicked for me really easy, and I just had so much fun, and we kind of joked around about not having our not being supervised or chaperoned with Cheyanne, and if it was just Kevin and I out, we found ourselves so far in and so deep, and we would be getting back to camp at 2 a.m. and stuff like, oh man, we need a supervisor. We can't keep doing this. We just kill ourselves. Just go.
Yeah.
And it was so fun. So it was amazing how God worked just in that, the friendship and the relationship, and how it just all came together super fast to where I feel like I've hunted with Kevin, as long as I've hunted with Cheyanne now. I mean, we've got little spots and pockets that, Kevin and I just had success on the days Cheyenne's not there, and stories. And it just it feels like I've hunted with him for a long time. So it worked really well.
Yeah,
hoping one of those days.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so hoping one of those days he'd share that spot with me. They still haven't shared all their spots with me.
Well, maybe you're not paying the right kind of money.
That's right.
No, I always like hearing that because it does sound like you guys mesh really well hunting together. It was interesting. It wasn't this last September. It was the September before. I'm up. Like you guys were saying, there was some younger guys up there, and I ended up calling them in a little bit. And I didn't want to get, due to the nature of the time of day and time of year and everything else, I didn't want to get into a big conversation. So I just got out of there before they saw me and tried to kind of roll back up the drainage a little bit. and reset the stage, because I actually knew there was a bull in there, and I whistled a little tune at him with my cow call, let him know that it was a hunter in there, hoping that they just kind of turn around and go back. Well, what happened? There was like 3 of them, and they all got like super pissed at each other, and I could hear them. I don't know what they were saying exactly, other than I heard one guy yelling at the other dude that I'm not hunting with you guys ever again. And the other one's just, he's cooing and yelling, and they're like kind of stomping out, pouting, leaving the drainage, which was fine with me because that bull went silent. I knew he was still in there. It was just interesting because, I was hunting alone. I don't have that issue, so I'm always curious how that plays out. Are you as excited as I am about hunting season? Man, it's here, finally, and you still have time to save some money on some great gear by the sponsors who make this show possible. So let me tell you a little bit about them. Scree Gear. Scree is extreme mountain gear, and this is my, 3rd season using Scree, and if it sucked, I would have changed by now. Guys, Scree is high-performance hunting attire. It is scientifically proven. It's backed by a great company. I wouldn't recommend these guys if I didn't believe in them wholeheartedly, and they just keep them on the show because it's great stuff, guys, without breaking the bank. And that's what I really like about the Scree gear. It's every bit as good as that super expensive stuff that you can get out there, but you're not going to break the bank getting it and get all geared up for complete layering systems, all terrain, all conditions, gear designed to adapt to the weather. It's all backed by a lifetime warranty, and when you order online at ScreeGear.com, VIP sizing and exchange program will cover you if you order the wrong size. You can send it back for free, and they'll send you the right size. It's a great company, great gear. Check it out at ScreeGear.com, if I can spit that out right. And use promo code The Western Huntsman for 15% off and free shipping. That is one heck of a deal. Let's roll right into Hoffman Boots. Hoffman Boots, I believe this is like my 8th or 9th season running a pair of Hoffmans. I use the Explorers, and I love the Hoffman Explorers in the 8-inch. You can also get them in the 6-inch. Depends. That's just kind of a personal preference thing. Hoffman boots are, again, kind of like Scree, where it's a great boot without spending an absorbent amount of money, right? So that's why I use the Hoffman boots, is because I'm getting everything that I need out of a boot. These are rugged boots. They last a long time. Like I told you, I'm going on like 8 or 9 years with these things, and I'm only on my 2nd pair. They will keep you from sliding down the mountain because they've got excellent traction, excellent waterproofing, excellent everything. Go to hoffmanboots.com and use promo code Huntsman10 for 10% off. Phelps Game Calls, the oldest sponsor on this here Western Huntsman podcast. I am recording this on the opening day of archery elk season, and I've got all my Phelps stuff laid out, ready to go. I use the Maverick, I use the Renegade, I use the new metal tube, all of it. It's great stuff. It has never let me down. I've been using it for a long time. I was one of the first believers in Phelps Game Calls, and you should be too. Go to phelpsgamecalls.com. Use promo code Huntsman10 to save you 10% when on your order, and good luck out there. Here we go, September. And last but not least is Tacticam. Tacticam is a unique sponsor on the Western Huntsman podcast, and you can get all the Tacticam products at thewesternhuntsman.com, a portion of which goes to conservation efforts in fighting against the anti-hunting movement. So be sure to go to thewesternhuntsman.com and pick you up some cameras. You can get I recommend getting 2 cameras if you're going to self-film. Get the 5.0 and get the wide lens. Those 2 you can basically attach to yourself, or if you're in the states that allow it, to a weapon, and film your entire hunt. They also have cool products like the Spotter LR. They have the Reveal cell cameras, which are way cool. We should have those on the website here shortly. And go check it out at thewesternhuntsman.com/gear, and let me know what you think. Let's get back to the show, and here we go. What is your guys' opinion on, oh, by the way, I don't know who they were, and I don't know if they remain friends or if they are now cutting stems off of each other's tires or what they're doing. But I have I guess, like, when you guys, I want to get your take on if you guys have somebody that is calling, and obviously you guys have a designated caller. That's a person that's calling for the day, and nobody's going to mess with that. But do the bulls pick up on the fact, let's say you have one guy that bugles and he's in a group of friends, they're out hunting, and then the other dude starts bugling, and they're kind of running two different tubes, and they call differently, the tones are different. I mean, you could have the exact same tube and the exact same reed in your mouth and sound totally different. I mean, you know what I mean? And so I'm curious if you guys have, like, how intuitive are the bulls to something like that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, we actually deploy something like that. Those days when you're like, I can't buy a bugle. We just can't. We've been hiking, and we'll hit that time where we're just like, you know what? It's time to break it out. Double bull fester. Let's go. And we just know what that is, right? And Cheyanne will drop off on one side of the ridge, and I go over to the other, and he'll play big bull, and I start playing little bull, and we just ruckus and blast each other and call each other all kind of, elk names. And then so many times we've got a bull to finally answer to that, and it just sounds like a bit of a frenzy going on there. And we do sound different, and it does sound like two different bulls, and something's going on, and you finally get that bull to crack, where we've been there single bugling and cow calling and doing our normal routine, and he wouldn't say anything. And as soon as we start that, boom, we get a bull to go.
Super interesting, Greg. I'm glad you brought that up, because I have been curious about that particular strategy, and I've never heard anybody talk about it. But I've always wondered, like, if you've got two people out and you guys are hunting and you're not getting any responses, what if you split up and made it sound like you were two different bulls talking to each other? And interestingly, I went out hunting. In fact, it was probably 2 days after Kevin got his bull. It was that they opened season a week early this last year, and so I went out with my buddy Steve, and Steve was calling for me, and I was shooter, because he'd actually gotten a bull, not opening day, it was the day after, and as he was bugling, we had a bull cracked off on the other side of the draw in this drainage, and he's over there bugling on the other side of the ridge. Steve's behind me bugling, and I almost get run over by this little raghorn bull that was coming in to check it out, and from behind me, and I barely caught a glimpse of him. Steve saw him full on and about had a heart attack, because I wasn't ready to shoot that way. And he runs off. So it always that begs the question, and something that I've always wondered, because everybody's probably that's been in like a bugle fest with a big bull. You've noticed that sometimes that draws in those satellite bulls, right? And they want to come in and check it out. And so I've always wondered about that strategy. Has that ever worked for you guys, having two hunters acting as two different bulls bugling at each other?
Yeah, we usually use that as a tactic to sort of locate. And when we haven't had a good day, and so we're just trying to figure out where the elk is located.
So more of
We've
a
done
locating
that
thing, yeah.
Yeah, that's probably. Although we did do it once, and Greg called in a mountain lion that he shot at with his pistol at 6 yards. But
sweet.
So, yeah, it works good for mountain lion call-ins too.
But we do. It does work, and it's not like it doesn't work all the time. But we use it to locate a bull that will pipe off, and we're like, okay, he's on that finger. We need to get over there, get within 150 yards of him. And so I don't know if we've ever, Greg. I don't know if you remember calling in something doing a double bull.
I don't actually. Getting a response, definitely. We've had them crack off on the finger, across the drainage, and we've done that multiple times.
But a lot of times that's worth it just right in itself, just having one crack off so you could locate him.
You hit a point where you're like, we're either leaving, drop prop, get out of here, and let's go do something else, or something needs to talk, and we just throw it all in the kitchen sink, right?
Yeah, interesting.
We actually had one, I think it was last year, a bull. We were bugling this drainage, and used to have like 15 bulls in that drainage, or probably not 15, but at least 10. And wolves moved in and just shut them down. And so we were bugling this place. You always hear a bugle, and we got nothing. And so Kevin and I were bugling at the same time. So we were standing right next to each other, and he started a bugle, and I'd finish it off and do a chuckle, like this big old long thing, and it piped off this bull. And we got probably within 100 yards of that bull, but it was like he only responded when we both bugled at the same time, right next to each other. And so he wouldn't respond to anything else.
Wow. It was a pretty awesome moment because we had been trying to get him. We knew he was there. He had piped off early in the morning. So we went around to where we knew he was, and he would not talk. And then we were like, okay, we're either leaving or we're going somewhere else, or this bull's going to pipe up. And so right before we went around the corner to head back out of there, we just bugled both at the same time, and he popped just a couple 100 yards away from us. And we got within like 100 yards of that guy. I just didn't quite seal the deal, but it was a pretty awesome moment.
Man, that is the best thing about September archery elk hunting is there's like a lot of times there's all these scenarios, there's all these different ways that you could run through your mind as to what you think the bulls are going to do, and then they react totally differently, or you do something that gets a reaction that there's no explanation for, and the constant like search for answers to all these things is what drives me with September elk hunting. So yeah. I want to ask everybody kind of individually. And Kevin, why don't we start with you? It's not like this is a School of September episode or anything like that, but I always like it when I feel like the audience is really going to gain some expertise. And one of my favorite questions is what do you think the biggest mistake is that elk callers do when calling elk?
That's the $1 million question, right? Because everyone wants to know what could I have done differently, or I think that I've called in bulls with a hoochie mama, and I know guys who are horrible callers that call in bulls, and I know that probably with a mistake that most people make is they don't call enough. I hear people say you can't call in these bulls here. When you bugle, they run from you. And we've hunted in other states and we've heard that, and yet we go deploy our strategies and our tactics and it works there too. And so I'm always of the notion that most people are too reserved. They don't think they're good enough callers, so they don't call enough. And they don't hit that bull at just the right angle on that finger where he would respond, because I do believe that sometimes you're in just a wrong spot and he can't hear you very well, or maybe you can't hear him. And so when you bugle and call more often, you're more likely to get a response. And ultimately that response is what drives the action. Once you know a bull's there, you can put boots on the ground and get in close and seal the deal.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I love that answer because it's a very consistent answer with what a lot of people say, and I think that one of the best ways I heard that described to me was when you're calling a bull elk and you're in mountainous terrain, you got to think of this like, sound travels in waves, right? And so if you think of a pond that when you throw a rock out and that little ripple that kind of, the ring that goes out and it gets bigger and bigger and it's going and going and going. Well, what stops that? It's, some kind of structure, whether it's the beach or a rock or some stump sticking out of the water or something. It's going to deflect that little teeny wave from the stone being thrown. And I feel like it's the same when you're calling elk. There's a lot of little variances within the terrain of a mountain that can deflect that sound. And that's why a lot of times you'll hear stories of people that are lost and they're in the woods, they're on a mountain, and these search and rescue folks are out there and they're calling their name, but they don't hear them even though they're within 20 yards sometimes of these people, and it's because of the way the sound travels. So that's just totally agree. I kind of went off on a tangent there, but totally agree with the sentiment, Kevin, that I think a lot of people don't call enough because, and for the exact reason you said, is they feel like they're not good enough callers or they're not confident enough, and I think it affects them negatively. Greg, what about you, man? Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was going to say, actually, we had that experience this year where we heard a bull like way off, and so we piled off down this ridge on this finger, got to this point, and we were on this point, and I was on one side of it, Kevin was in the middle of it, and Greg was on this weird. Greg was probably only 40 yards from me, Kevin was 20 yards from me, and I let off this bugle, and this bull bugle straight across from me about 150 yards away. It was loud. And I look over at them and I'm like, there he is. And they're looking at me like, we didn't hear anything. And
oh, really?
They did not hear that bugle. And they were 20 yards. I was like, he's right there. How can you not hear that? And it was loud to me.
And
they both could not hear
it. Yeah, that's happened to me before too. I've been hunting with people and they'll get all excited because I'm like you, Kevin. I'm hard of hearing, and I notice when I go hunting with other people that have better hearing than me, they hear a lot more. But that's not always just because of whatever hearing level. It's exactly what you said. It's just that sound deflection and what's in the way. So yeah, good stuff, man. Greg, what about you, man? What do you think people mess up the most when they're trying to call elk?
I think for me it's getting in the rut, right? You had success that one time going down that one finger and you got to there and something worked and you had an encounter and you keep running that same playbook instead of, man, you drop off, the ridge top, get down, 100 yards, 200 yards. Sometimes those things look like the bottom is so far down there. Right? Mm-hmm. I remember first starting off and Cheyanne, I'd be like, dude, we're not going down there. That is so far down. That is so far down there. No way. And then as we got more seasoned and you would, you break the rut, it's like, get off the top, go down and see what's down there and take a different approach and just check that out. And so many places that we thought was scary is like, dude, why didn't we come here a long time ago? This is where they've been living.
Totally.
Right. And just so for me, I think to pass anything on is that, don't keep grinding the same playbook every time, either the approach or the call. Sometimes that call is not the call that's going to light that bull up. Sometimes grab a different reed call, try a different tone, change your bugle, just throw a chuckle out there, see what happens, squeal like a little bull and just get out of the rut. Don't do that same pattern every single time because it just takes that one little thing to be different. We've had bulls respond 0 calls, no calls at all, but we were just walking across crunchy limbs, snap, pop, and we've been calling forever trying to get something to light off, nothing, and then we hit a bunch of limbs, and that was what did it.
Yep,
So,
been there.
Yeah, try it all. We've you splash the wallow, you get different noises and sounds going, and use everything that you got in your quiver there for making it sound different and just get out of the rut.
Yeah, that's great advice. That's great advice, Greg. I can't agree more with that too. That the rut of what Greg is talking about is not the elk rut. It is the rut, right? the rut in your mind that makes you think like I know a dude that saw this bull in this, on like it was like the north slope of this one drainage that obviously I'm not going to say the area. He saw a big old bull there one time. It is a big bull, and he goes and hunts there every single day of every single season, as if that bull is still going to be there almost 10 years later. And I've tried to explain, man, you gotta get out of there. But because he never tags out, and so that's a perfect example of getting stuck in a rut and kind of getting in your own mind, letting it damage your odds. So Cheyanne, the collar of collars.
Collar of collars. Wow, that's a lot of pressure.
That is a lot of pressure. That's why I saved you for last, man. No. It's the biggest mistake people make with calling.
I think along the same lines of Greg is that you get in a rut of your calling, and the last couple of years especially, I think you should always be a learner, right? You should be learning from like a Corey Jacobson and a Paul Modell, and this last year especially, Greg and I were talking. I mean, we just got to change things. We got to learn. So I listened to I don't know how many podcasts of Paul Modell, the Elk Nut.
Yep.
And because I think as many years as I've been out in the woods, I still don't know it all. I'm still learning. And we decided this year, I started listening to some of this stuff. I was like, let's try some of the sequences he did, and
you talking like that slow play kind of thing?
Yeah, the slow play, and this year we killed Kevin's bull by doing the advertising. So I never thought just sit there and rake and bugle and rake and bugle. And so we did that on every. So we went on a finger and rake and bugle, and Greg and Kevin would be set up a little ways away from me. And I don't know what's going on. I'm making so much noise. I don't know what's going on. If elk are walking in, I have no clue. But I'm just bugling for 20 minutes. I just sit there and I bugle and grunt and pant and rake and rake and rake. And then the first setup, we had a bull walk in, and we got busted. We didn't set up quite right. And then the second finger, we just sort of side hilled around to the next finger, and we lit up some bulls. I just sit there and rake and rake and rake and advertise. And then we went to the next finger, getting closer to the bull on our side, and did the same thing. And then the bull lit up across canyon from us, and we're like, man, we should go chase that guy. And we dropped down a little ways. I was like, before we drop down, let's call over to him again and just see where he's at to make sure. It's an hour and a half for us to get up over there.
Sure.
And lit off a bugle, and he was already on our side. He had went down the canyon up our side and started coming over to our side where we're advertising on one finger. And so I just flipped over the other side of the finger and just kept going. I'm just advertising. When Kevin shot, I had no clue that bull was that close. Yeah. And that bull was probably only 30 yards from me. Huh. And I was all I was doing was raking and bugling. And so, but I would never have tried that if I didn't listen to Paul Modell's stuff. And I was like, hey, let's just try something different. So I would say that just continue to learn. You know, I like Corey's stuff. You're really aggressive bugling, and Kevin and I like to be aggressive. And I don't know how many bulls I've called that I've actually sprinted at that I've killed. I think 3 or 4 bulls that I got tired of playing the game. I just sprinted at them as hard as I could, bugling. Killed several bulls doing it that way. But it's just, I think you just have to be a learner. There's a couple actually 2 years ago, Greg, I think he spent all winter long bugling on his way to work. He put and he bugled. When he came to camp that year, I was like, dude, your bugle is awesome. And he just got a thunderous bugle now, but he practiced and he worked at it.
Yeah.
And so don't wait till, September 1st to start practicing your bugling, learn, practice, get better at it, and then it'll translate when you get out to the woods. So.
Yeah, for sure. Man, I love that. Yeah. I love that because I agree, man. I feel like I feel like it's a huge ratio too. Like 85-90% of elk hunters, they use calls. They don't touch them except maybe the week before September, and then after September is done, they don't touch them again all year. So especially when you're learning, that time is so critical. So yeah, great point, man.
Jim, you talk about learning. This is hilarious. I just got to share this. So Cheyanne and I, when we first started hunting, we used the power bugle, right?
Yeah.
and our first season, right? We're learning this together and learning how to call. I'd never hunted elk, and so it was my first time out, and I got this tube and trying to learn this thing, and that first season, I was able to figure out how to make a grunt and a chuckle. But I couldn't hold the long note at the beginning. I couldn't get it. I just couldn't. But Cheyanne could. And so we were both running the power bugle, and he would start to bugle, and he would run it up and get to the end, and then I would take it from there, and I'd do the chuckle. So we were like both of us together combined in our rookie season to make a chuckling bugle. And to think we started there to where we are today, right? It's just practice, like Cheyanne said. But that was just so funny. We joke around about that all the time, about how we both had to do a part of the bugle to get it done.
Yeah. Well, and that leads to kind of another point. Like, you're talking about where you started, and here it is, 21, 22 years later. And now you guys are killing elk and making videos for the Full Draw Film Tour. Tell us a little bit about that, and how long have you been doing that? How long have you entered a video for Full Draw Film Tour? I can never pronounce that right. Full Draw Film Tour.
Well, we actually our first go at it. We had our first year of filming. I sort of just put together a film. We actually had a double bowl year. Actually, Kevin Greg was filming, Kevin was shooter, called in a bull, Kevin shot it. And as that was happening, I shot another bull as the caller. And so Kevin shoots his bull. They hear a ruckus behind and they turn around. Greg's filming, and a bull elk is rolling down the hill, dying, right close to them, within 20 yards, because I shot the bull. And so I put this story together about, actually what makes an epic hunting film. And I put it in for the first year. And the first year we weren't accepted. And so I was like, that's too bad. So we went in and put it on YouTube, and we went to the show, and we only had a couple hundred views on it. We were just starting, and probably all of my family members and Greg's family members watched it, and that's about it. And Kevin's too. And so I was talking to the guy at the Full Draw Film Tour. I was like, hey, I really liked your film. How about you turn it in next year? Revamp it a little bit, turn it in next year. And so that's what we ended up doing. Is I redid some stuff and put it back in, and we got accepted that year. And that was actually the COVID year where they did it online.
Oh yeah.
And then this last, it was actually, for me, Greg and Kevin didn't necessarily want to do the Full Draw Film Tour. It was just one of those bucket list things for me. It's like, man, that'd be cool to get on there, just like, yeah, let's try it. And then we did it, and it was fun, but not being in the theaters, it was sort of a bummer.
Yeah.
And then we had a great story last year, and the story about Greg's loss of his dad and Kevin's loss of his son to suicide.
Yeah.
And we just told that story in our hunting seasons and how it went. We got accepted again, and I think we're working on a film this year to submit again. But it's just, we're not professional hunters. We're not selling a bunch of stuff. We have really nobody that sponsors us. Although I do have a guy that helps me out with my bows, with Montana Bows, Dan and Jared Tulke out of Montana. But they help me out with my longbow stuff, but we don't really have sponsors per se. And so we're just enjoying sharing price, sharing life, sharing hunting stories. I tell hunting stories very well. I think my church gets tired of all my hunting stories as I preach, but that's really how we sort of got into the film tours.
Not in Plummer, Idaho. I'll bet they're digging that down in Plummer.
Most of them do. So
I need to hit you up when I come through there, man. I'm coming through Plummer all the time.
Yeah. Just give me a call. We can do lunch or something.
Yeah,
great.
We can go to La Zips. About the only thing there, isn't there?
Well, the Gateway restaurant. It's a lot better.
Yeah, I've never been there.
Yeah, my daughter actually works there, so she's a server. So.
Oh, cool. We might even get a discount then.
Well, I don't know about that. I usually don't get a discount. So.
Well, I want to encourage everybody that is listening to check out some of the videos you guys have made, because I really like the way you put them together and the messaging in them, and the one that you guys just kind of put out that I think they got accepted to the Full Draw Film Tour. Again, I'm tripping over my tongue with that one. It was a great video because it isn't just a video of people out in the woods flinging arrows, killing something, bringing it back. There's a lot of messaging in there, and I like that. I like when we're telling a story kind of centered on something that we're all passionate about, but there's something unique going on with that, and it paints a picture and it tells a story and it does all the things that a video should do. And so I'm just curious, because obviously it's never even been in my mind to send something to like Full Draw Film Tour kind of thing. I've only been to one when, pre-COVID, when you can go to the theater. I went to the one in Sandpoint, Idaho a couple years ago. What happens from there? They submit it, or you submit the video, they approve it, and then it just goes on the circuit with them or whatever, wherever they're playing the videos, they play it. What happens from your end from there? Is it something like they're trying to compete for the best video kind of thing, or I'm just not super familiar with it?
Yeah, so basically what happens is when you want to submit a film to Full Draft Film Tour, you kind of, you put your idea on video, and you kind of come up with a script and a storyline, and you put that together and you submit it. And if you're accepted, they'll come back to you, and you have the ability to let them know like the changes that you anticipate, because a lot of times it just takes a lot of work and editing and videography stuff to get a really finished product.
Mm-hmm.
And so they'll kind of correspond with you back and forth on what your storyline is going to look like, if you're going to be overtime, undertime, because they have time restraints. And so once you're accepted, and that's like a several month long process. And then once you're accepted, then they start all the promotion of their events and the tours. And so, it's not like we get paid to go on the tour or anything like that. We go as spectators, just like everyone else. This year was really special for us. We got to go with family and friends. Greg and I think, went to 3 different theaters, and it was just really special because the story was so close to our hearts and near and dear to us, and it was such an impact in our lives, like in just knowing how everyone experiences death. And that was really kind of the story, was talking about what's that look like when you move past that, because you don't really get past some people dying. Like it's just like it just becomes the new normal. And just what that looks like. And so the story was really meaningful. And so to go there and watch that with friends on a big screen, and to hear the audience erupt with cheers when the arrow finds its mark, is just something that really is just special in that moment. And to be the videographer or the hunter behind that is kind of an experience that's just really, really pretty awesome.
That's awesome, man. I didn't even think about from that perspective, but yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So the video that is approved, that one, have they started for this season yet, or are they putting together the dates still for it?
So 2022 is the next season. So they just got done with 2021. They finished that in August, and so that went from like June, July, and August. There may have been a show in May. I could be wrong. But basically, I think they toured like 50 or 60 cities. They go into these little private theaters and they host the event. People come buy tickets, and they just get to watch the films revealed live on the big screen. And so the film that we just released on YouTube was the one that played on the 2021 season.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so we don't get to actually release that until they release us.
That makes sense. Now that you say that, I feel dumb asking. that makes sense.
No worries.
But yeah, no, it's a great event actually, and I know it's a cool like way to get the kids out. In fact, I had one of my daughters break down in tears at one of them because she didn't win a bow, but they have a lot of giveaways. But she had her heart set on winning this youth bow or something they were giving away, and when they didn't call her ticket, man, she had a lot of heartburn over that one. So anyway,
they give away an adult bow and a youth bow at every single venue.
Yeah. And you win a lot of. There's a lot of stuff to win at those. So I love.
Yeah, Greg wins stuff all the time. Greg is always our winner. Yeah. I'd never win anything. So.
There's been one show I didn't win, and I cried too. All the other times I win, I would walk away with something.
Yeah, that's my wife, man. Every time we go somewhere, I'll take her to the RMEF banquet or the Mule Deer banquet or something, and I don't win anything, and she's winning left and right, all this stuff, and she doesn't even care about it. I'm like, how did they draw your ticket?
My wife too. Yeah.
I put 10 tickets in that jar. You put 1, and they pick you. What the hell? Yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah, my wife's the same way.
Well, guys, tell us how people could find you, find Higher Calling Adventures. I've actually got you pulled up on Instagram here. Let's see if I can get my phone to work. There we go. And you're on Facebook, right?
Yep, we're on Facebook. Higher Calling Adventures on both Facebook and Instagram, and Higher Calling Adventures on YouTube as well.
And are you guys?
I think Rumble too now.
Yeah, we're on Rumble now.
Whoa! I am out of the loop. What is Rumble? Is that a video? Is that video format or platform?
Yeah, it's a YouTube alternative.
Yeah, gotcha. Are you guys having any issues with YouTube, like pushing back on showing hunting content or anything like that?
So we're not like a monetized channel, and so we won't have any issues with that until we are. So I know that some of the channels, some of the bigger channels that have, hundreds of thousands of subscribers are dealing with the demonetization of animals that are dying on video. And so we're not at that level. And it's not why we're doing it at all anyways. If we made money on it, that's great. We would just put it to use to further our message. And even if it was, we just don't care about that. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but they have not taken any of our videos down or anything crazy like that. So.
I just keep hearing a lot of different things from within the hunting community about what's going on with some of that and these monetized channels, and so Rumble sounds like it's the alternative.
That's why we're on Rumble.
Yeah, I don't blame you. It's smart, man. Well, cool, guys. I really enjoyed this conversation. I'd like to keep in touch with you guys, and I'm gonna find out who it was that ruined your tires, because I'm not as nice as you are. I'm going to get them back for you. No. It's bothering me, man. Obviously, you could tell it's bothering me that somebody walked out of there and they were mad enough. Well, so I think it bothers me because it happened to me, a similar situation like 5 years ago. I took my work truck hunting, and I live in Idaho, but my company is based out of Spokane, Washington. So guess what my plates say? They're Washington plates, right? And some Idahoans don't take very kindly to Washingtonians coming over and hunting. And so ever since then, if I take my work truck hunting, which if my boss is listening, doesn't happen anymore. But if I do, I have a shell on the back of the, a canopy on the back, and I they get all dusty. I write Idahoan on the back of that so nobody slashes my tire again. So that's why it bothers me. Irritating. Hunters need to get along and behave a little bit better with each other out there, because we've got enough against us as it is, and so that's another reason why that story bothers me. But let me know where he works when we hang up, and I'll take care of it for you.
Well, Greg makes sure he doesn't like to drive his truck anywhere either out in the woods, so he always makes Kevin and I drive because we have the Idaho plates. So.
And Greg?
Yeah, if it would have been Greg's, they'd have burned his truck to the ground.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm always curious, like in Idaho, if I bought like a Subaru Outback and put all these weird bumper stickers on there out in like September, I wonder how it would fare in certain situations.
I see where you're going with that.
Well, guys, great talk. I sure appreciate it. Let's, like I said, let's keep in touch. I'd love to know how everything goes for you for the rest of this season and next season, and maybe we can get together this next summer and do another one of those elk seminars. We'll get. I'll call up Michael Batiste. He come up from Boise and did it. So, did you guys like that seminar?
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah, Michael does a good job. I like Michael. What was that?
We message back and forth with each other afterwards because he likes to build bugle tubes, and so do I. Uh-huh. And so if you see me on film, I never have a bugle tube that looks like anybody else's because I build them myself.
Oh, gotcha.
So him, we call it a Frankenstein Bugle, and so he does the same thing too. He likes to build different bugles, and so I'm always playing with different things to try to build a bigger, better bugle tube than Greg and Kevin's Phelps tube. So
have you ever cut the bottom of a water bottle off and bugled into that?
I do that when I travel back and forth down the road to practice my bugling.
Gotcha.
And so I'll use a Gatorade bottle or a water bottle so that I can get some kind of thunder. And so when I practice my bugle and when I truck, I use one of those. But I never did it out in the woods.
I did once, man. I did. I lost my bugle tube. It fell out of my pack. This was years ago, and I cut it off. I wish I had some really killer story that I called in a bowl and killed it with a water bottle, but I didn't. I wasn't that lucky, but it does work. It surprised me how much, how much sound I got out of that thing. So anyway,
yeah. There's a guy on Is It September on Facebook. I can't remember his name, but he there are a couple Asian guys that he had a longer bugle tube, and on the end of it was like a power bugle, but at the end of it he put like a milk carton, and so he's running around the woods, and they kill some monster bulls.
I know who you're talking about. They're out of Missoula. I'm pretty sure they're out of Missoula.
Man, they can kill some big bulls, and they have that tube with the milk carton thing on the end. It's like, man, whatever you need to do. So
everybody's got their magic touch, man. I don't know what it is. I love it. Yeah, I know. That's funny you say that. I know exactly who you're talking about, and I can't. Their names are totally evading me, but I'm pretty sure they're out of Missoula, and they are killers, man. They're absolute killers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So. Well, fantastic, guys. I know I'm running a little long here, so apologize, but I sure appreciate you guys coming on. Higher Calling Adventures, guys, go check them out on Instagram, Facebook, Higher Calling Adventures. Really good content, great videos. I love your YouTube videos. Keep doing what you're doing. Love your message. God bless you. Thanks again for coming on the show, and let's keep in touch.
All right, Jim.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, man.
You made it all the way to the end. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. We sure appreciate your support. This is Jim Huntsman signing off and reminding you to check us out at Instagram at The Western Huntsman and on Facebook at The Western Huntsman. And you can also check out the website at thewesternhuntsman.com. Thanks again. We'll see you guys next time. Stay Western, and I'll see you on the mountain.